and Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political.
Welcome, Joelle, to the Lawyer's Den here at IBM TV International Broadcast Media. Our unique program brings together individuals and leaders in legal thought from diverse backgrounds, and we are pleased to have you join us here today. So let's start. Let's get this thing rolling. Where is my erstwhile friend from North Carolina?
The erstwhile friend has arrived from the great state of North Carolina, otherwise known as the Old State or the Old North or something like that. Anyway, they call it something weird here. I'm not originally from here, so I just kind of hang out here, Bill.
Right, but you claim it now, right? And I think the state is better for having.
I would move to deny, but I'm here anyway. I'm stuck. My grandkids live here. What am I supposed to do? So okay, I got to be here. I'm one of these old guys that hang out with grandkids. All right. So what about the young people? You want to bring some young people on this?
Yeah. Let's see if we've got some young people.
Okay, we do actually. This young lady hails from Lithuania, and then she moved to the United States of America and attended law school at the University of Denver School of Law, which is where the pioneers maintained their household. Then went on, received her master's in law, also from the University of Denver School of Law, admitted before the Florida Bar Association, now practicing down in the state of Florida, the person who brings class to the Lawyer's Den. Let's give a warm welcome to Guidry Stansonite. Guidry, welcome to the show. I don't know how to speak Lithuanian, and I barely do Russian, so I'm kind of hopeless.
It's okay.
At that. Is it dupra ding or dupra uno or something like that? What do you say when you say hello? I don't know.
Dobry den, very nice.
Dobry den, dobra uno.
You're getting
I thought it was Dratsvitska or something like that. Dratsvitska? No, they don't do that. All right. Well, Sasha is our expert Russian, so he tells me this how to do that stuff. But I'm hard at it. But anyway, we have another person on the Den here, and she's new to the Den, but in her rookie season. The rest of these people are pros, but this person attended the Suffolk School of Law and now lives in the Boston, Massachusetts area. Let's welcome Linda Dubuque. Linda, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. Nice to see everyone again.
Now we have perfect diversity, Bill. I suggest we just cut it off here and let the other people stay back there. What do you think? Now we got the right form of diversity. What do you think, Bill?
I think we have to press on, Nick.
Okay. Anyway. Okay. So the thing is, see, I just follow the boards here, so as I'm looking down below, we got to press on, and I'm sitting there going, gosh, I really don't want to. But unfortunately, this person actually hails from the University of Southern California. Then he went on to receive his law degree from the Ohio State University, then spent some time in Alabama. I'm still not sure why. But then he went on to receive a master's in law from NYU. Then he went to teach law school at the Indiana Tech University School of Law. Then he went to teach, where he is right now, Georgia College. Let's bring in our resident professor, Adam Lamparero. Adam,
thanks, Nick. Great to be
welcome
here.
back to the show.
Thank
I hope
you.
my introductions are getting better and they're not salacious as they have been in the past.
They're great.
They are? Okay, well, the thing is, I'll have to work on it then, because obviously I'm doing a bad job if you say it's great. So I want to go the other way. Okay, well, anyway, it's good to have you. And now we also have another person on the Den. This person actually hails from BYU, which, by the way, Brigham Young University, in the Provo area of Utah, where he received his law degree. Then he went on to receive his master's in law from George Washington, got admitted before the United States Supreme Court because he drafts briefs there, got me admitted before the United States Supreme Court, which I brought a case there, which got waxed 9-0 going the wrong way. But let's bring in our resident experts on constitutional law, Jeff Teichert. Jeff, welcome back. Okay. Well, you're muted, but that may actually be a good thing. So I'm not going to complain about that one right now.
Glad to be here, Nick.
Oh, well, well, that's good. Anyway, the thing is, we have one more person on the Den. Like I said, I might be in and out today, but the thing is, we have another person on the Den that keeps everything riled up. And this person actually went to law school at the State University of New York at Buffalo or Albany. I know he went to Buffalo, but I liked Albany and rib him on that one. Then he went on and to get admitted before the New York bar, which is purportedly one of the hardest bar exams to pass. Well, you know, you can't believe everything you see, right? Then he went to practice law in New York City, which I can tell you is a tough, dirty place. I worked there for 5 years. It's a tough, dirty place to hang out, you know? But this guy still hangs out in this tough, dirty place. Let's bring in our tough, dirty street fighter. Here is Fernando Leal. Street fighter, welcome back.
All right.
Okay, it's good to have a mixed population here, as what has been known as the dysfunctional family. And with that, of course, we have our dysfunctional leader. He is our den master, the Honorable William F. Trezevant from Washington, D.C., of all places. Hey, Bill, I have to ask you a question. Are you a member of the Washington, D.C. bar?
Yes, I am.
Son of a gun. Okay, congratulations. That's one of the few ones that had reciprocity with Florida, but I was too lazy to fill my application and get in, you know, so whatever. So I'm kind of like stuck with Florida and circuits, but I guess, well, anyway, that's irrelevant.
Right.
You know, lawyers know about that. Non-lawyers don't really give a rat's rear. So, but they do care about some of the things that we talk about, oddly enough. And yesterday I got a lot of comments about, was this law or is this politics? Or what are you guys talking about? So that's a good question, and I don't really know. So what are we talking about today? Oh, worthy den master, what do we have as our conversation today?
Well, I don't know that I'm honorable. I don't know that I'm worthy, but I do know that I have the floor right now. This is an interesting topic only because it just keeps rearing its ugly head. And I don't know how or when or why, you know, we have to keep going through it. And that tonight, the subject is sexual harassment. And it's not just, it seems to be broader now because we're at the point in time in our society where we ostensibly had this notion that we had this reckoning with the Me Too movement. But I just want to begin here, and if I could have everybody up on the panel so our audience can see your reactions as I go through this list of names. And this is going to serve as our introduction because by all means, you guys can start wherever you want to start. But remember, I'm going to go around the horn, get opening things first. But here are some of the names that just come to mind. We had Al Franken, who was a former senator. He left over some of this stuff. Harvey Weinstein's now in jail 23 years. Bill Clinton and that disaster leading to impeachment. You had John Edwards' affair while he was campaigning to be president of the United States. I mean, go figure. Dude, like the one time you don't want that kind of press. Then we had Eliot Spitzer, who was famously client number 9, former governor of New York. Now we have the governor again, Andrew Cuomo, in the news. Prior to that, we had Bill Cosby. There was John Conyers, the congressman who resigned. Then we had the horrific case coming out of Michigan with Larry Nassar. And there's more on that later. Then we had Roger Ailes over at Fox, the CEO of Fox. We then had Peter Dunn and David Friend, who were over at CBS in Philadelphia. And then you had Les Moonves, the CEO of CBS. And more recently, there's been John Lasseter, the chief creative officer over at Disney. And if that's not enough, just during the pre-show, Gadri reminded me of somebody else. Gadri, do you want to remind me of the name that you brought up? Because I had totally forgotten this one. Gadri, mic, please. Microphone, Gadri.
So the infamous name would be John Goddard. He was an Olympic coach during the year of 2012. He was the coach, during which time there were some golden medals won. And very, very recently as February 25th, the division, the District of Michigan, filed an amended warrant felony with a lot of charges ranging to what the coach has been accused. And I printed it out. It's close to 6-page long, and it includes 14 counts of human trafficking, first and second degrees of sexual assault, forced labor, and also criminal enterprise and racketeering, which goes directly to this such a strong and look up to institution as the United States Gymnastics. And that's the most recent incident that happened only 2 years later after the horrific tragedy that came up for the really time when Nassar was a doctor for the Olympics team for 20 years plus.
Okay, and now just for the audience, because I had two other names on my list, because and just by way of clarification, all these cases involve varying degrees, but at some point in time, it's just this intersection of sex, power, authority, and abuse, and even the mere allegations. And let's also not forget that Clarence Thomas, during his confirmation hearing, faced this stuff. That's the Supreme Court. And then we just went through this stuff with Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I honestly don't know why anybody in the world thinks that any of this stuff is okay. And that's on the one hand. On the other hand, the question is, if after the Me Too movement, was that all just a bunch of hot air because this stuff keeps happening and nobody's listening? So I want to start off here with the rookie. Linda, Mike, please, what are your thoughts? Opening thoughts, Linda?
My opening thought is I wish I knew how you're going to start off this session this evening, because you only named men. Why are there no women's names on your list?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I guess, Linda, that opens up the door. So, and I already heard it. Thank you. So, Adam, by self-selection, you get to go next. Why are there no women on the list, Adam?
Well, look, sexual harassment is a very vague and all-encompassing term. It's different from sexual assault, different, of course, from rape. Those are all despicable crimes, and no one would ever say otherwise. However, I do think that with the Me Too movement and our very broad definition of sexual harassment, that we've gone a bit too far. Number one, Brett Kavanaugh. I do not believe Christine Blasey Ford. I don't believe her at all. Number two, Bill Clinton had a consensual sexual relationship with Monica Lewinsky. Number three, Elliot Spitzer, he went to prostitutes. Again, it was a consensual transaction from the facts that I know, unless I don't know some of the facts. So I think we've gone a little bit too far, whereby, as much as I dislike Andrew Cuomo and what he did with nursing homes and COVID, it seems from the allegations that it was just a lot of inappropriate comments. And I got to tell you, I've been the victim of inappropriate conduct by women all the time at work. And I have to tell you, it never rose to the level where I thought it was harassment. So there's some real tough issues to talk about.
Okay, Fernando, please. And then, Jeff, I'm coming to you. Mike, Fernando?
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Open. It's hard because these all have to be taken on an individual basis. And really, what we should be looking at is probably the objective test that the Supreme Court established. I think he pronounces it Oncale, maybe Oncale versus Sundowner Offshore Services, which was written by Scalia, and it summarized the court's original decision in Meritor Savings Bank versus Vinson, where Scalia says that the objective severity of harassment should be judged from the perspective of a reasonable person in the plaintiff's position, considering all of the circumstances. So it isn't just one runoff comment here and there. It's looking at the totality over time. You know, he gives one example in his decision where, you know, the coach smacking the butt of a player running off the field isn't going to be viewed as harassment. But, you know, if your boss does it to you, that's a different story. He shouldn't be smacking your behind because, you know, hey, Fernando, great brief. You know, that I played sports my entire life. My boss would do that and be like, hey, buddy, keep your hands to yourself. You know, some of the examples that you mentioned, Spitzer, I don't think that was a harassment case. I think his lieutenant governor was the one that got caught for sexual harassment, having an affair. And I forgot his name. Spitzer was prostitutes. Edwards was an affair. I don't think Clinton rose to the level of sexual harassment. I don't think he should have gotten impeached.
Yeah, no.
And yeah, go ahead.
Opening. I'm not looking for an exhaustive brief at this point. I got to get
not an exhaustive brief. Just picking at your examples.
Okay, I know.
Go ahead.
Nick, Jeff, please, and then Nick. Microphone, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, the others have said a lot, and I agree. Not all of the examples that were given. I mean, they may have been sexual misconduct, and in some cases resulted in ending political careers, like John Edwards. That was an affair. It wasn't sexual harassment. Bill Clinton, same deal when it comes to Monica Lewinsky. One can look at that and say, well, she was his subordinate. He was the president of the United States, and she was much, much younger. And did he take advantage of the situation? But she was an adult, and it was consensual. And we can go on with other examples. I think the evidence against Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas was very, very thin in both cases. So I believe sexual harassment is serious. It's a serious problem. I also believe that you need to have evidence of it if you're going to accuse somebody. I was married just a little over 3 years ago. And I have to tell you, dating in the Me Too era it always felt a little risky. Like somebody could accuse you of anything. And thankfully I didn't have anything like that, but I always worried a little bit about it. And I was happy to have my wife take me off the market because I always had some concerns. And I was talking to a fellow lawyer the other day who said a similar thing, that if anything ever happened to his wife, he said, I wouldn't even dream of going out and dating in this day and age because, all you have to do is be accused and it taints you for life. And that is a concern.
Okay.
So I think the obligation to have evidence is important.
Okay, Nick, please.
Yeah, just a couple comments. First of all, I think Scalia and this legal standard is a bunch of trash. It's completely not objective. Throw him away, throw his garbage away, and create an objective standard, please, counselor. Not this amorphous standard. But let's examine the issue at hand, which I believe is our friend Andrew Cuomo. There were three things I understand that happened. Number one, there was a person that they're accusing sexual harassment because she was wearing a dress that didn't have anything on her back, and he went up and touched her back. Okay, and that was considered sexual harassment. Now, no, she just had skin on her back. Cuomo could have been coming up, putting the hand on, "Hi, Miss X," sexual harassment. Give me a bloody break. Yet the press crucified her, and no one spoke the other way. And I thought that was an abysmal job of the press in terms of that being sexual harassment. Frankly, it isn't. Then number two, he made a statement that said something like, would you be interested in having sex with an older man? Sexual harassment. Come on, if it's in the right context, give me a bloody break. The thing is, she could say yes or no and say, look, I don't want to discuss sexual, or just want you to put that down. I'm a Victorian prude, and wear that on your sleeve, please, counselor. Then the third one, he grabs a lady and he kisses her. Now that one is the third one is actually I have a problem with, because that could be an assault or it could be a battery. But again, it depends on the context which that happened, which I wasn't there, so I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's been crucified by the press. There's nobody in his corner whatsoever, and I think it's frankly appalling that this Victorian Puritan standard that we have today exists in the United States of America.
I think this is what people always do when they try to make this subject so convoluted. Like, well, it depends on this circumstance, that circumstance. Listen, if I was hiring, if I ran a bank and I had a bank employee, the basic rule was don't steal the money. Real simple, okay? It's not like, oh, well, it was only a nickel. It was a dime. Well, it was an extra $10, but there was this thing, and I was going to pay it back. I mean, you work for a bank, don't steal the money. Now, when you're at your workplace or you're in a position of leadership or authority in society, certain things should be true. And that is, you can't mistreat people, particularly when it comes to sexual harassment. Putting your job on the line, making their lives somehow uncomfortable. That's just crazy. Now, Linda, tell me, can't we have a rule as simple as don't steal the money for the rest of the workplace when it comes to sexual harassment? Yes or no?
Yes, it could be that simple, but nobody cares. That's the problem. So years ago, I had to quit a job because my boss wanted me to do the dirty deed with him, and I refused. And then I didn't get the promotion that I was expecting to get after I had worked my ass off in this job. So I didn't really feel comfortable going to work anymore. So I quit the job and I told everybody that I was moving away. But the reason I was moving away was because I had to take a job somewhere else because I couldn't continue to work there. Everyone knew this guy was a dog. everybody knew it, but it was an accepted thing. A lot of women have slept with him to get jobs. And I remember at the going away party of someone who left the city, I was forced to dance with the harasser. And afterwards, the administrative assistant came up to me and was laughing in my face and said, "Better you than me."
Wow.
Wow. You know, yeah. See, the thing is, down south, if you were my sister, I could tell you what would happen, Linda. That person, my brothers and I would beat the tar out of that person, and that would never happen again. But that's a Southern gentlemanly way of dealing with it. I'm not sure how they deal with it in New York or Massachusetts.
You inciting violence?
That I can tell you would not happen in my family.
2 weeks ago, I was having dinner with a friend
Yeah.
who is a teacher and was telling me the story about how one of the students, musician teacher, one of the students who was getting a lesson in a room where there were other people in the studio, complained to this school administration that she felt that he was coming on to her. And so he was presented with this accusation, and he said he was like completely, he thought it completely came out of left field. He didn't understand it at all because he wasn't in any, he didn't touch her inappropriately. He didn't say anything to her inappropriately. He was shocked, actually, that these accusations even came forth. He's like, "I'm not even attracted to her. I find her like nothing." The thought never even crossed his mind. But now, as far as the administration is concerned, there's a question about him. And he said to me, "It's really not fair because I don't have an opportunity now to like face the accuser." Like he has nothing, just like, "Oh, you're not going to work with the student anymore." So,
all right, okay.
Yeah, there's two sides to the story. Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
That you're defending. You're not even defending women. Gigi, I need your help. Gigi, I'm going to you.
Can I just say one other thing? Nick, did you say that the evidence against Clarence Thomas was thin? Did I hear you say that right?
I didn't say that. It was one of the other counselors.
Yeah.
Jeff, you thought that the evidence against Clarence Thomas was thin? Did you see Anita Hill testify?
Relative
The entire hearings, and I thought it was a lot of uncorroborated allegations. It was vivid, and she was a credible witness, but she was really the only witness.
Okay. Gigi, we're going to come back to you, Linda, but Gigi, Adam, Fernando, please. Gigi.
All right. So first, to Linda's point, why we are not talking about sexual harassment done by women. Just one fact, based on the recent Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, from all of the complaints that were connected to sexual harassment, 16% were made by men. So we will get there. We are starting with a bigger portion. To Fernando's point, when he said, was elaborating on the standard about sexual harassment as seeing a pattern in the behavior within the working community or the office institution. Well, my point is that one person sexual harassed is one too many. When it comes to the conversation about sexual harassment in general, I think we have to understand that sexual harassment, it's about power. And there was a conversation about, Nick actually said that, certain statements, I cannot see them as being sexual harassment. But Nick, you need to take context here. Context is very, very important, because then we go to manipulation, fear of retaliation, fear of something that could happen to Linda. By the way, Linda, you're very strong. What happened to you was absolutely horrible. It did not kill you, but there are a lot of women who are completely diminished after that, who cannot recover from that. Sexual harassment, I faced sexual harassment as well. I had to make a decision or two in my career, and I'm proud of where I'm standing, but I would not still say that this is okay, this is how we function, so we just have to deal with it, find another job, find another project. It should not be like that. And I'm very happy that Me Too movement started. I will agree with Adam, though. I think it could be overly manipulated by certain people, by certain bad actors. That's where Linda's point comes, because it is known, it actually well documented, that professors or teachers, especially when it comes to tenures, are being faced or seeing, because there is, I guess, big competition of getting certain position, that even like anonymous post on certain board, Facebook or different social platform is sufficient for the associations or institutions within the educational institutions to start the investigation. And Linda was right. There is no right to face a complainer, and sometimes it is even kept anonymously. So it could definitely cripple the lives. Yet we still need to navigate it. That's my point.
Adam, you have the floor, and then Fernando, we're coming to you.
Well, I just want to be honest and just get the facts out here. Let's not pretend. If you're a white male these days and you wake up in the morning and you breathe, you're a racist. If you say anything, you're a sexist pig. That's the society we're living in. Number two, many cases of sexual harassment are based on bullshit, and they are lies. And Exhibit A, Christine Blasey Ford, who didn't know how she got to the party, how she got home, didn't know anything except that she only had one beer. I'd call BS. Number three, on college campuses nationwide, it takes little more than a mere accusation to put a male or a female's college career in jeopardy. It's a disgrace, and you can thank that sorry excuse for a president, Barack Obama, for implementing those ridiculous Title IX regulations. Number four, I don't care one way or another if a politician has an affair. It means nothing. Number five, okay, what I care about is if they govern well. Number five, we need to get to a workable definition of sexual harassment. Everybody agrees that sexual assault and sexual crimes are despicable and disgusting. But sexual harassment has become this all-encompassing term, just like racism has, where you wake up in the morning and you're a racist just because you're white. It's ridiculous, it's unjust, it's unwarranted, and I want to address these issues because these are where the solutions are going to lie.
Okay. Fernando, what are your thoughts coming out of this? I mean, everybody's just ripped apart the Scalia standard, apparently. And what are your thoughts, Fernando, coming from New York?
Yeah, number one, if Nick doesn't like the reasonable standard approach, then he should rewrite the restatement of torts, because then all civil law goes right out the window. These are civil cases, and the reasonable person standard is what's going to be applied. And a preponderance of the evidence is what's going to be applied. Maybe you should go back and take a refresher course and learn what these things are again, instead of wasting your time with English common law and hanging out at Oxford. You know, as for Adam, relax, buddy. Whitey is okay. They're not taking away your power. Just because you wake up in the morning,
getting hired in academia.
Just because you're waking up in the morning, you're not going to be assaulted or attacked or anything else.
Well, I think most of
us don't have the power and the authority to be in those positions. Guidry saying that only one person is enough. You can't just go on the word of one person. You have to look and see what is actually going on. You can't just sit here and say, well, she made one, Fernando said A, and that's it. There has to be investigations the way Adam say. There has to be investigations the way Nick says. There has to be more than just a one runoff comment or listening to a conversation. Let's say Guidry and I are having a conversation. Guidry makes an off-color remark. Linda hears it. Now she's going and saying, hey, Fernando and Guidry are creating a hostile work environment. We weren't even talking to Linda. We didn't even know she was there. So you can't just have it as just one person with one example. And that's not what I said. What I said is that you have to look at the totality of the circumstances and then put yourself in the victim's position and apply the reasonable person standard. And that's pretty much, it's civil, and that's what we got. And that's what we got to work with. And you aren't going to get this highfalutin, wannabe, make-believe, perfect standard that Nick wants to get and Adam wants to get.
But Fernando, you're a man, so you're mansplaining.
Yeah.
How terrible of you.
Well, I'm not mansplaining. I'm explaining the law to a professor who doesn't understand it.
Can I respond, Counselor?
Okay. Jeff, because Jeff, I'm going to you, Jeff, and then I'm coming to you, Nick. But Jeff, I want to ask you this, because we are in this kind of this area. There is certainly the law, and there's a standard and such. And I asked, a bit facetiously, can't we just have a basic kind of common sense approach? And I guess I don't know. How do you see it? Because obviously it involves entertainment, it involves politics, it involves governing, it involves private action. I mean, Jeff, how are you making sense of any of this?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think the definition of sexual harassment is a little too narrow. And I'll give a couple of examples. Bill Clinton, as governor of Arkansas, I mean, the lawsuit that Monica Lewinsky testified in, that ultimately, Clinton committed perjury in and got himself impeached. That lawsuit was thrown out on summary judgment because the court said, well, even if everything Paula Jones said was true, what it amounted to was Clinton did some lewdness in front of Paula Jones. She said no, and he took no for an answer. Therefore, he didn't sexually harass her. Now, I get that he didn't technically violate sexual harassment laws, but since when is it ever okay for the governor of a state to drop his pants in front of a total stranger? I mean, it just feels wrong. It feels like an assault in a way to do that, whether or not he took no for an answer when she said no. The fact that he did it in the first place, in my mind, is a problem. Megyn Kelly talked about how when she went into Roger Ailes' office, Roger Ailes, he had summoned her, and he went like this and asked her to turn around so he could check out her body. Megyn Kelly's one of my favorite journalists, but he asked her to do that, and she said, here I had clerked for a Supreme Court justice, and I had argued cases in front of numerous circuit courts of appeal, and I had appeared on the news many, many times, and he was objectifying me, and because I was under pressure from my boss, I did it. Now, I don't know where, if you've got no dating relationship or anything, asking someone to do something that is sexually suggestive is ever really okay. And why should she at that point have to give no for an answer if there's no relationship there that would indicate that would be something that's okay? It seems to go beyond common decency in our society. I'm with Adam. I don't believe that every little thing someone does should be considered sexual harassment. I also believe that the evidence needs to be strong to convict someone of it or to find someone guilty of it, because it is something that can tarnish your image forever and ever. But like I said, since when is it okay for the governor of a state to drop his pants in front of a total stranger that happens to work for his state? I don't see where that in any realm of common decency, that is okay.
Okay. And now, so Nick, that gets me back to you, because you were sitting over here defending the love Governor Cuomo, saying, oh, well, it really wasn't bad. It really wasn't bad. When is it ever appropriate for the governor of the state of New York to do any of the stuff that he did, whether it was, whether it rose to a level of crime or not, Nick? I mean, isn't it just basically wrong, as Jeff just kind of outlined for us, Nick?
Well, first of all, Counselor, we have to get rid of the crazy 17th century books that Fernando keeps reading, dealing with a reasonable man standard. Remember, we're talking about women. It's not a reasonable woman standard, because generally, whether you like it or not, it's men doing the bad stuff, not the women. Okay, I mean, even Guidry pointed out the statistics heavily weighed in that favor. So first of all, get rid of that stupid standard. And yeah, Fernando, go ahead and read those old, disgusting books. What we need to do is have new, better laws on the books with examples, and have an objective standard. For example, yeah, you grab something, or you do and you put down these examples. They do it in the Internal Revenue Code, their I practice and taxes. You have like zillions of examples on one particular subject matter. So, for example, you could put example 1. Drop your pants. That is sexual harassment. Just put it down there, because people are stupid. And so the thing is, unless you really define it, these people go, well, I don't think I did anything wrong. Okay, put that down. That is wrong. Touching certain body parts, put that down. That's wrong. So what you need to do is have sexual harassment, list all the examples. Did you hit these buttons? If the answer is yes, yep, you can be charged for sexual harassment. This reasonable man standard, dump that. That's 18th century, guy. Fernando, go back to the 18th century,
Okay,
man.
all right, okay. Linda, now you've heard. Okay, Nick is saying, "Hey, here's a real clear standard," and I
Clear
saw
standard.
you chuckle. Was it clear enough for you? And remember, your mic. Was that clear enough? Kind of example. Is that what you should be doing,
I
Linda?
really, I work with the public. And so I really like Nick's idea about listing things out and just spelling it out, what it is and what it isn't. It's really important. But on a serious note, for lawyers who are negotiating settlement agreements, one of the things that I always thought was interesting was whether or not you should have a no disclosure clause in these settlement agreements so that you can't talk about it, because I think that we need to talk about it. And that's one thing that the Me Too movement has done, is like people are now talking about it. Whereas when I was sexually harassed, what were my examples? Okay, Anita Hill, I believed her. Monica Lewinsky, my heart went out to her because she was like really put out there. And, it wasn't like, she wasn't able to turn it around, in my opinion, the way this, I don't know, there's a woman in the media, I think she just got divorced, Kim Kardashian, okay? Like she did something on social media and it like spun it around, and then she was a superstar. And so I didn't really see that happening with Monica, but I saw her giving a speech or something later on, and I thought, okay, she's recovered. I'm going to recover too, because they tried to get me to stay and offered me a $15,000 raise, and I took a $10,000 pay cut to leave. So I was like thinking, geez, I'm 25,000 in the hole, and then I took another $10,000 pay cut to leave the job that I took to leave the harasser. So I was really behind, and it's not really fair that things like this are happening to women, and women need to speak up. So the Me Too movement, I think, is great, but I think it's out of control. I really do. I think it's just out of control. And having an objective standard, like Nick said, we need a list. What is it? What isn't it? But one thing that I want to say is that Monica Lewinsky, I read somewhere that she received a first edition copy of Leaves of Grass from Bill Clinton. And what I want to know is, were public funds used to make that purchase?
Okay, I do not have an answer for that, but I do have an aspiring congressional candidate. Adam, we're coming to you. What about this idea of a very basic notion of a list? Look, you do this, you check any of these boxes, and that's it, buddy. You're done. I mean, you screwed the pooch. Adam, microphone, Adam.
Screwed the pooch? I'm not sure about that statement.
As I've said,
okay.
Sorry. As I've said repeatedly, sexual assault and any kind of sexual crimes are despicable. But make no mistake, audience, we are living in a cancel culture. Now, Abraham Lincoln is apparently a racist, and so is Thomas Jefferson. And under the Me Too movement, hey, you're a sexual harasser if you look at a woman and say she looks beautiful. They have gone too far. Number two, I am deeply suspicious of these women who come out years after the fact at just the oh-so-perfect time, such as when Brett Kavanaugh is nominated to the Supreme Court or Andrew Cuomo is going through the nursing home scandal. I call BS on that. And I'm going to get back to what I said before. We have to have a definition of sexual harassment that is workable, that's clarified, that clears it up, but that also recognizes not all things are sexual harassment. For example, when Al Franken was photographed with his hands over the chest of someone in the military, yeah, that was distasteful. Yeah, that was offensive. But it wasn't sexual harassment. We've gone too far in a cancel culture that is canceling everybody, and you are next if you don't watch out.
Oh no! See, that's just mongering. I mean,
yes.
Adam, I let you go sometimes, but that's just clearly wrong. Look, here's the
about
basic,
time.
No. Here's the basic thing: pants up, hands off, and then don't steal the money. Now, Jeff, wouldn't those rules be pretty clear at work for you?
Well, by that standard, I've been harassed by about 10 women in my life.
Okay, I know.
In law firm.
I know.
And believe me, Me Too is about power. The Me Too movement is about power, not justice.
Okay, well, fine. Jeff and then Nick, please.
Well, I mean, I think, frankly, I don't agree with Adam on Andrew Cuomo. I think the evidence is kind of damning. Now, I don't I don't suggest that everything that was stated constitutes sexual harassment. However, when we just look at standards of common decency, why, do you believe because you're the governor, you have the right to walk up to a total stranger, grab her head, and kiss her on the lips? Now, I mean, battery is a harmful or offensive touching. I think it's a harmful, or if a woman or man, either one, came up to me, grabbed me by my head, I don't care if it's the governor or whatever, and kisses me on the mouth, and I don't even know this person, chances are good they're going to get a fat lip, and then maybe a lawsuit. But I mean, where in the hell does he get off doing stuff like that? He also asks a young woman, 25 years old, in his employ, whether she would consider having sex with a much older man and outside of her relationship, with a pretty clear implication that he is talking about himself. Now, if she works for him, what kind of pressure does she feel to comply with his request to get ahead? And why should she have to say no and risk her career, at least in her mind, in order to have a claim for sexual harassment? It seems to me that it's putting the onus on her when he's clearly misbehaved. And I mean, if they were on a date or something and this was a consensual romantic relationship of some sort, all right, that people say and do a lot of things that flirt with the boundaries. That's dating. This was not dating. This was a professional relationship. And I think this guy's out of bounds. I think the evidence against him is pretty damning, whether he violated any laws or not. I mean, I think it was sexual battery when he kissed a total stranger.
Relative to what standard?
Okay.
But
Nick, Fernando Guidry.
Yeah. I'm just glad that Linda and I aren't sisters. She's not my sister because, like I said, here's how I handle these situations. But remember, I come from the deep South, and I have 2,000 relatives in Tampa. Not all of them are the best of people, but I've hung around a lot of different people. I would just tell that gentleman, I'd say, look, guy, you really don't want to continue this type of behavior because I'm going to end up in prison. And the guy always asks, you in prison if I continue? Why is that? I said, because, dude, you're going to end up in the hospital. Okay. And when you're in the hospital, unfortunately, I go to prison. And that's how it works in the South. Unfortunately, up north, I guess they don't have that type of vigilante justice, as they would say. And so Linda had to go away. Now, I have 2 granddaughters here. All right. And they're both beautiful. I'd love to show you them. They're really, really attractive. And I told my son, I said, look, I'm here for a reason. And this is the real reason. If stuff like this happens down here, I said, I may end up in prison, but let me tell you what, those boys are going to end up in the hospital if they pull stuff like that. But because they don't know, because they just don't get it, we do need to have, and I agree with Adam, that objective standard. It's got to be listed, because otherwise, I teach at 2 D1 universities, one live and one on the internet. And it's a big problem. He teaches at a university. It's a big problem with the student-teacher relationship and your ability to be called on something that you didn't even have anything to do with. I even quit teaching middle school and high school students because one of the administrators come to me and said, how do I know you're not a sexual predator? That was her statement to me. And I was going, that's a good question. I don't know how you would know or not know, but I don't need this job. So goodbye. And I quit. So it is a big problem. But we do need to outline and have an objective standard. I totally disagree with Fernando and his love affair with Scalia. This reasonable man stuff, reasonable junk stuff. All it does is makes people like Fernando rich as he ends up spending more time in court. Let's get to an objective standard, counsel.
Okay, Fernando Guidry, please. Fernando, microphone. Go.
I'm in. Yeah, like always, Nick is wrong again and likes to spew a lot of nonsense just because he's bored. It's the reasonable person standard, not reasonable man standard. You should brush up and get out of, that English common law that you're still stuck in. And again, I'm not really sure why nobody gets it. Everybody keeps saying, what's the objective standard? What's the objective standard? I've said it about 3 or 4 times. I'll say it again. It is conduct that is severe or pervasive enough to create an objectively hostile or abusive work environment. And then you have to analyze it as a reasonable person from the perspective of the plaintiff, whether you guys like it or not. So Adam, just because you didn't find the behavior executed against you to be not to be harassment, that doesn't mean some other guy wouldn't have found it to be harassment, whether you like it or not.
The law shouldn't cater to the sensitive.
But then you know what? You're gonna have to get rid of assault cases, because criminal assault goes to the mental state of the person being assaulted, not the defendant. It's not if the defendant thought he was assaulting you. It's whether you thought that what he said or she said assaulted you. So then you're going to have to get rid of that body of. You're going to have to get rid of that body of law also. So again, your statements don't make any sense. You're a professor that doesn't make. This is typical of every single law professor. You guys
here we go.
You guys come up with a bunch of nonsense.
Here we go. The same shit. Here we go. Are you acting out again?
Because it's applicable. So, in terms of the Me Too movement, it did lose steam, which was on your original questions. And I think for me, part of the reason it lost steam is that a lot of the power brokers like Oprah and some of the other women were intertwined with Harvey Weinstein and some of the other men, and they kind of knew what was going on. But since everybody was making a lot of money, everybody kind of looked the other way. And then now it explodes. So now, hey, Me Too and all the catchy phrases. I think like with every movement, it brings a spotlight and then it starts to diminish over time for whatever reason. In terms of Cuomo, things weren't placed into context. The 25-year-old girl that he said, would you mind, is it a problem for you to have sex with an older gentleman? These statements were made after she had told him that she had been a victim of sexual assault and she had been raped, and the mental state that she was in and things that she had undergone. And he laser focuses in on those points, and then he comes out with these statements. So he kind of already knew her mentality and he knew how to attack, which is part of what sexual harassers and men that create hostile work environments do. They figure out they don't go after any woman. They target specific women that they can get away with this stuff. The second one, the one that came out first, she was leaving his office on 3rd Avenue. As she was walking out, he jumped in front of her, in between the door and her, grabbed her face and kissed her. But that had been a lead up of him sending messages through his aides saying that he found her attractive, that he looked like that he can be sisters of one of his ex-girlfriends, but she was the prettier one, that he had a crush on her. And now it's coming out that there is a culture of him being a bully and a hostile work environment, and nobody speaks up. So to sit here and just say it just in the ether in that way is just wrong. And the other thing, one last point, the reason that you don't have as many men as women on these lists is that women aren't yet in the positions of power that men are. My hunch is this is going to start to change as women are ascending into those positions. Because look, once you get into that power position, you're gonna end up doing the same thing at some point.
Okay, Deidre, you've been patiently listening. I mean, what are you making of any? And Linda, I'm coming to you, and then Jeff, I'm coming to you. But because you're not off the hook, Linda, yet. But Deidre.
Well, Adam stated that Me Too movement was about power, not justice. In my opinion, Me Too movement was a revolution. It was needed revolution. In every single movement, in every single new legislation, reform, there's always bad apples. The law cannot function 100% accurately. Yes, there might be, and there's going to be single people who are going to abuse the system, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that we have to abandon the progress that we made that was long needed. When it comes to Adam's argument that, oh, we poor man, now I'm going to say to a woman she's beautiful and I might get to be called as performing sexual harassment. Come on, it's absolute nonsense. It's complete nonsense. We know that there's for any misconduct in this nature, there's going to be investigation. There's always thorough and extensive investigation. There never is that one person is made and one complaint and all the life of the person went apart. There is a context. There is a investigation in the culture, in the institution, in the work environment. The collateral damage of sexual harassment is insane. It's difficult. It's huge, and we have to talk about it. Also, I wanted to talk about what actually I agree with Fernando with the last points. I think they were very well articulated. And I am for equal power, but yes, we have to understand that there is femininity and there is masculinity. So when Adams just talking like that, oh, 3 times I was sexually abused, maybe you were, but Adam, biologically, men are built to be stronger. And then it comes to the power position, which
What a sexist remark that is. How sexist of you.
Most of the times, as Fernando said, men who are guilty, who are accused of such intense sexual harassments, are men in a much higher power position, and they use the position, and there is manipulation and fear and intimidation of, fear of retaliation. So it is important when it comes to the objective standards. So now, Nick, you mentioned, okay, we need to give examples such as don't touch the body. So now we have an example in the statute, don't touch the back. So you see, there is a problem. Should we say, oh, but you can touch a back if someone is wearing open back dress, that's okay. So again, I think there are not enough trees for us to give all of the examples, all of the potential for sexual harassment, particularly with the context that could differentiate in multiple situations.
Okay, Linda, there aren't enough trees out there to write down everything that you want to do. I mean, do you just hate the environment, Linda? That's why you just want to...
I've been watching a lot of British television, and I think maybe it's time for the people in the U.S. to take a lesson from the Brits and how they are so proper, and maybe we need to be a little more proper in society so that we're not touching people's bare backs. But in all seriousness, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I do firmly believe that as lawyers are writing settlement agreements, if they're putting non-disclosure clauses into these settlement agreements, then we're not advancing the conversation, and that's a detriment to society as a whole. Also, I also think the statute of limitations to bring a claim is a little too short, because when women are really traumatized by experiences like this, it takes them about 2 years or 3 years to recover. So what I found was that by the time I was ready to handle something, and I had gotten back on my feet financially, and I was ready to maybe file a claim that I felt that I was entitled to, the statute of limitations had told. So that's another thing that I found very disappointing in the legal system.
Okay, Jeff, I want to come to you, and I want to kind of pick up on a point that Linda said, and she's made it twice now, and I really want to highlight it, and that is this, that normally, Jeff, when we, as lawyers, we put together settlement agreements, we always have non-disclosure clauses, and that muffle, that silence all the parties to the agreement. And I guess Linda's point is simply this, that if we didn't do that, because we often think of that as smart lawyering on behalf of our client, but perhaps there was a larger obligation that we don't do that, because that way, Linda, when she took the job, would have at least heard from the women who had suffered these bad acts prior to Linda having to go through all this other stuff. Jeff, what do you think of that? This notion that perhaps we as lawyers have an affirmative obligation to stop kind of sweeping all this under the rug with the use of non-disclosure agreements?
Let me answer that, but first I just want to say on another point that Linda made, I believe that the statute of limitations on an EEO claim after you have exhausted your administrative remedies is 60 days. Which is ridiculously short. It is an invitation to commit malpractice if you're representing someone in one of those cases, and it's absurd. So I think that has got to be changed. Now, on the question that you asked, I also agree with what Linda had to say. And I don't know how I can say it any better than she can, but.
Well, you can say it without a Boston accent, so maybe the rest is a mistake.
Well,
ahead,
I mean, I was thinking about the whole situation with Matt Lauer.
Right.
That's a name that hasn't been mentioned, but I mean, they had multiple claims over years on that guy, and he was he had high ratings, and so it was swept under the carpet. over time, I think and I believe Roger Ailes also had one of these gag clauses in the contracts that he signed. I have mixed feelings about it because I do believe we need to encourage settlement, and in some cases that's going to really benefit the victims because maybe they don't want to be public about what happened either. They have, fear about being exposed in that way. And, maybe they don't want to go through a trial and relive the whole experience. So I do have some misgivings about it, but I agree. I think particularly as a normative matter, we need to be really careful about whether we're agreeing to these non-disclosure clauses just as a matter of course, because I think in a way it does kind of, put a hush over the whole discussion of sexual harassment.
Okay, Adam, I'm coming to you, and then Nick. We are getting about to that time. So, Adam,
Hey, Bill, this
Yes.
is quick on the non-disclosure agreement.
okay,
Most of the time, those are driven by the insurance carrier who is paying the bill, and they will not settle the case unless a non-disclosure agreement is signed.
okay, all right, Adam, you have the floor.
Cancel culture and the Me Too movement has gone too far, and it is about power. Number two, Guidry's statement was alarmingly sexist, and I would have never thought that Guidry would engage in such sexism. To denigrate, devalue, and degrade men by saying or intimating that they are not as likely to be harassed because they're physically stronger ignores the fact that sexual harassment is about power, and women in positions of power can be every bit as horrific as men. I find it funny when Guidry says that there's investigations that are done. Really, go on any college campus in this country. Title IX investigations are a joke. They're a kangaroo court weighed heavily in favor of the accuser. That's why you always hear, I believe all women. Well, it's a lot of nonsense. Number three, I find it interesting that Guidry, when talking about the Me Too movement, says there's some bad apples out there. But when we talk about law enforcement, she doesn't say, oh, law enforcement is overwhelmingly good, but there's just a few bad apples. It's funny how her reasoning changes based on her ideological predilections. As far as you go, Fernando, I am not just a law professor. I've been practicing law for 20 years. So stop it with your ad hominem attacks. They're annoying and makes you look very immature. Let's get to real solutions. And that begins with a workable standard for sexual harassment that is clear and that doesn't be overbroad, but that isn't too narrow.
Scalia gave you one, your hero.
Okay, all right.
Indeed, he is. So you are right on that, Fernando.
Okay, well, thank you for those two gentlemen. Guidry, I do have an extra moment, so I'm going to go to you because Adam just unnecessarily attacked you. So you get a word, and then we go. We got to keep
that is sexual harassment right there.
No. I'm just going to say a few things. I'm talking about police and the new sexual harassment legislature. It's completely different subjects, and I'm stand behind that. The police brutality is a we already passed the bad apples. We started with them. We passed that. To the investigations, Title IX, look at how many cases are actually being investigated under Title IX. And also look at all other different institutions. So you touch in colleges and universities, that need some work, but there is still, you leaving another part, how difficult it is to make a claim. But then you're not talking about employment positions. You're not talking about all the different institutions that require that, such as the Olympic sports, employment, and so on. So, I understand you are talking about one, you cherry pick the facts that are appropriate to your statement.
I cherry pick the facts.
And then Adam talking about the power, about the sexual harassment. From the very beginning, I said it is about the power. However, right now, if you look at the statistics, higher rank employment is taken by the men. So now there are less women in those positions. Also, more women are more intimidated because of the structure of where we are and how this harassment
Your statement was sexist, it was inappropriate and wrong.
Okay. Nick.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with Guidry. And in terms of Fernando and Adam, they need to wake up and smell some serious coffee. But in the meantime, we're going to have to go and we're going to have to leave this for another day, counselor. So thanks for everybody for watching The Lawyer's Den, and we'll see you next time. It looks like the sexual harassment thing is not going to end with this particular program. I'll see you guys in Gitmo. Take care. then Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political.